Why busy people are broke. What if working harder is actually the reason you're stuck? What if the people waking up before sunrise, working late nights, answering emails on weekends, are the least free people in society? We're taught a simple formula: work more, earn more, succeed. But look around. Millions of people are exhausted, stressed, and overwhelmed, yet still living paycheck to paycheck. Tim Ferriss opens the 4-hour workweek with a dangerous idea. Busyness is a form of laziness, because busyness avoids the hardest question of all. Is what I'm doing actually moving my life forward? Most people confuse activity with progress, being present with being productive, hard work with real value. They fill their calendars, but empty their energy. They trade time, stress, health for a paycheck that barely grows and a life that keeps getting postponed. This book is not about quitting work. It's not about being lazy. And it's definitely not about retiring at 65 when your energy is gone and your dreams are tired. It's about designing a life you don't need to escape from. Because freedom isn't a reward at the end of work. Freedom is a system. And most people were never taught how to build one. The old rich versus the new rich. Tim Ferriss says the real divide is not rich versus poor. It's old rich versus new rich. The old rich followed the traditional path: work for decades, save a little every year, delay joy, postpone life. They're told, sacrifice now, enjoy later. Later becomes retirement, retirement becomes permission, and permission often arrives when energy, health, and curiosity are gone. Then there's the new rich. They ask a different question. Why wait? The new rich don't measure wealth by bank balance. They measure it by freedom. Freedom of time, freedom of location, freedom of choice. They don't climb corporate ladders. They don't wait for promotions. They don't ask permission to live. Instead, they design leverage. They automate income. They work remotely. They build systems that earn whether they're online or not. For the new rich, work fits into life, not the other way around. The goal is not to be rich one day. The goal is time, mobility, and control today. The D.E.A.L framework, the core of the book. Everything in the 4-hour workweek fits into one framework. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's not motivation. It's not hustle. It's not luck. It's a system. Tim Ferriss calls it D.E.A.L. And here's the dangerous part. Most people try to escape work without ever redesigning it. That's why they fail. D. Definition. Before changing your life, Ferriss forces you to change your definition of success. Not money, not status, not someday. Ask yourself this. If fear wasn't deciding for you, what would your ideal day actually look like? Most people have never answered this, and that's why they live someone else's version of success. E. Elimination. Here's a truth most jobs won't tell you. Busy doesn't mean valuable. Ferriss reveals that most work produces almost no results. Meetings, emails, tasks that exist only because no one questioned them. Elimination isn't about working harder. It's about removing everything that doesn't matter, so what's left finally works. And this step alone terrifies most people. A. Automation. Now comes the shift most people miss. Once work is reduced, you don't do more, you replace yourself. Ferriss shows how systems, not effort, create income. Outsourcing, processes, simple automation. This is the moment you stop being the worker and start becoming the architect. L. Liberation. Only now does freedom appear. Not quitting, not disappearing, not rebellion. Liberation is when income continues, whether you're online or not. Location freedom, time freedom, decision freedom. This is why skipping steps fails. People chase freedom first without building the system to support it. Ferriss doesn't sell fantasies, he sells sequence, and sequence changes everything. Definition: redefining success. From childhood, we're taught one definition of success: more money, more responsibility, more hours. If you're busy, you must be important. If you're exhausted, you must be winning. Tim Ferriss calls this a trap. He asks a question so simple, most people have never answered it. What would your ideal day actually look like? Not your job title, not your salary, not what sounds impressive to others, your real life. When do you wake up? Where are you? Who are you with? What are you doing and not doing? Ferriss introduces a radical idea: lifestyle design. Instead of postponing happiness, he suggests mini retirements, periods of freedom spread throughout life. Why delay living until your energy is gone? Money is not the goal, it's a tool. Time is the real currency, and freedom is the real wealth. The moment you redefine success, you stop chasing more and start designing better. Elimination, the 80-20 rule. Most people think productivity means doing more. Tim Ferriss argues the opposite. Productivity is about doing less, better. He introduces the Pareto principle. 80% of results come from 20% of effort. But then he delivers the uncomfortable truth. Most of what fills your day, emails, meetings, notifications, busy work, produces almost nothing. In fact, Ferriss points out something even darker. 80% of your stress comes from a very small number of sources: a few clients, a few tasks, a few conversations. So the most powerful productivity question is not, what should I do next? It's, what can I eliminate? What can you stop responding to? What can you stop checking? What can you stop pretending is important? Being busy feels responsible. It feels safe. It feels productive. But it's often just avoidance, hiding from the few decisions that actually move the needle. Being busy is not impressive. Being effective is. Low information diet. Most people think they're staying informed. In reality, they're addicted. News alerts, emails, messages, infinite scrolling. Tim Ferriss calls this mental junk food. It feels urgent, it feels productive, but it rarely improves your life. Most information doesn't help you act. It only makes you anxious. Ferriss makes a radical claim. If information doesn't help you make a decision, it's a distraction. The brain wasn't designed to process constant alerts. Every interruption fragments focus. Every headline steals attention. Every notification trains you to react instead of think. So Ferriss prescribes a low-information diet. Check email once or twice a day on your schedule. Ignore breaking news that changes nothing. Consume only information that leads to action. Because clarity doesn't come from knowing more, it comes from filtering harder. Less input, less noise, less stress. More output, more leverage, more freedom. Automation, making money without you. This is where the 4-hour workweek stops being philosophy and becomes a blueprint. Tim Ferriss introduces the idea most people never question. If you must be present to earn, you are trapped. Automation is about detaching income from your time. Ferriss shows that wealth doesn't come from working more, it comes from building assets that work for you. These assets can take many forms: digital products that deliver instantly, physical products handled by fulfillment partners, licensing ideas instead of managing operations, online businesses designed to run with systems. The principle is simple: build once, sell repeatedly. Create value one time, let systems do the repeating. If your phone must be on, if emails must be answered, if you can't step away, then you don't own freedom. Ferriss makes this distinction brutally clear. If your income depends on your presence, you don't own a business. You own a job, even if you call yourself the boss. Automation is not about being lazy, it's about being strategic. Because freedom doesn't come from effort, it comes from leverage. Virtual assistants and delegation. Most people believe freedom requires doing more. Tim Ferriss proves the opposite. Freedom comes from doing less strategically. Ferriss delegates almost everything: email management, research and data gathering, scheduling and calendar control, customer support and follow-ups. Not because he's lazy, but because his time is more valuable than his tasks. This is the shift most people never make. Instead of asking, "Can I do this?" Ferriss asks, "Should I be the one doing this?" Delegation is not about dumping work. It's about defining outcomes. You don't manage people, you manage results. Ferriss popularized hiring virtual assistants not as employees, but as systems extensions. Clear instructions, simple metrics, regular check-ins. That's it. The moment you stop being the bottleneck, everything accelerates. And Ferriss delivers the uncomfortable truth. If everything depends on you, you're not essential. You're replaceable. Delegation isn't laziness. Delegation is leadership. Because leaders design systems so they can focus on what actually matters. Liberation, remote work and location freedom. Most people believe freedom means quitting their job. Tim Ferriss offers a smarter escape. Liberation doesn't start with resignation. It starts with renegotiation. Ferriss shows how to redesign work from the inside, shift from hours to outcomes, from supervision to results, from presence to performance. Because here's the truth most offices ignore: your value is not where you sit, it's what you deliver. Ferriss teaches how to propose results-based roles, clear deliverables, measurable outputs, fewer meetings, more autonomy. When output becomes the metric, location becomes irrelevant. Email replaces meetings, dashboards replace supervision, trust replaces control, and something powerful happens. Work becomes portable. Your office fits in a backpack. Your income travels with you. Your life stops waiting for weekends. Liberation is not rebellion, it's alignment. When work supports life, not the other way around. Because real freedom begins the moment location stops controlling income. Fear setting, the anti-goal system. Most people are taught to set goals. Tim Ferriss teaches something more powerful: fear setting. Because fear, not laziness, is what actually keeps people stuck. Ferriss asks you to stop fantasizing about success and start confronting what you're afraid of. He breaks fear into 3 simple questions. First, what's the worst that could realistically happen? Not imagined disaster, not vague anxiety, specific outcomes: failure, embarrassment, temporary loss. When fears are written down, they shrink. Second, how would I recover if it happened? Most irreversible fears are reversible within weeks or months. Money can be earned back. Skills can be rebuilt. Reputations recover. Very few mistakes are permanent, but fear pretends they are. Third, and this is the question most people avoid, What is the cost of inaction? What happens if you do nothing for a year, 5 years, 10 years? The same job, the same routine, the same someday conversation with yourself. Regret doesn't arrive loudly, it grows quietly while you're busy being safe. Ferriss reveals a brutal truth. Most people fear action, but should fear inaction far more. Clarity kills fear, but avoidance feeds it. Fear setting doesn't make you reckless, it makes you honest. And once fear loses its power, movement becomes inevitable. Comfort is the enemy. Comfort is not peace. Comfort is a slow trap. It feels safe, it feels responsible, it feels like, I'll do it later. But comfort is also where ambition goes to sleep. Tim Ferriss makes a brutal point. Growth and comfort cannot coexist. Every meaningful change begins with discomfort, uncertainty, and temporary chaos. That's not a flaw, that's the price. The new rich understand this. They don't wait to feel confident. They don't wait for permission. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They act first and adjust while moving. Because clarity doesn't come from thinking, it comes from doing. Comfort whispers, stay where you are. Don't risk it. You're doing fine. But fine is the most dangerous word in life. It keeps you employed, but not free. The people who redesign their lives are not braver than others. They're just more afraid of staying the same. Discomfort is not the enemy. Stagnation is. The real message of the book. The 4-hour workweek was never about laziness. It was never about escaping work, and it was never about 4 hours. It's about control. Control over how you earn, control over where you live, control over how your days actually feel. Tim Ferriss isn't telling you to work less. He's teaching you to design systems instead of routines. Replace effort with leverage. Trade busyness for intention. Because most people don't suffer from a lack of motivation. They suffer from bad rules. Rules like more hours means more success. Busy means important. I'll live later. The book challenges you to rewrite those rules. Not someday, not after retirement, now. You don't need to escape your life. You need to design it. And once you understand that, work becomes a tool. Money becomes optional. Time becomes yours again. That is the real message of the book. Final message plus call to action. Tim Ferriss leaves us with one truth that changes everything. Life is not meant to be deferred. Not after promotions, not after retirement, not after one more year. Every year you delay living, you pay with time you'll never get back. Stop trading decades for a someday that may never arrive. Start designing freedom now. You don't need permission. You don't need perfect clarity. You don't need approval. You need a system that works while you rest, a system that protects your time, a system that turns effort into leverage. That's what this channel is about. Subscribe to Insight Beam for timeless ideas that simplify work, multiply freedom, turn income into leverage. Because the goal isn't to look busy. The goal isn't to impress. The goal is to be free.